We will. I think Susan just went to do that.
It's
So-
recording up at the top.
I got you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna just describe who we have. Esther Curry here from C.E. Bremen, Mount Vernon. Hi, Esther. We have at the State Library Pat Berg and Rita Stevens and Rick Meyer, Scott Drone Silvers, Miranda Shake, Don Pippin from Philo, Shirley Payton from our office in Edwardsville, Diane Yeoman, I see you, just Diane down there in the corner, Sue Pearson from IHLS, and then Shelley, if you want to start introducing yourself.
Shelley Stone, IHLS.
Oh, Johnny Halstead, Rick Warren Library.
Barb Patterson, Ralton Library.
Stephanie Dennis, Carmi Public Library.
Denise Carnes, North City Public Library.
Good morning, I'm Leslie Bednar from Illinois Heartland Library System.
And I'm Ellen Poppett from Illinois Heartland Library System, and I'd like especially to introduce to my left our new colleague, Shandy Griff Penrod, who is our new marketing person.
Yeah, nice meeting everyone.
Brenda Gilpatrick, Red Bud Public. Susan Palmer, IHLS.
Anna Yackel, IHLS.
Crystal Gully, Harrisburg District Library. Cassandra Thompson, Chair Director for IHLS.
And Susan Palmer left the room for a second, but she's here with us as well. So that being said, our agenda covers system updates from this.
She's been losing weight, that's why. She's just a slip of herself.
There you go.
Dear.
You were the person we were expecting, and Diana Sussman from Carbondale just joined us. The agenda says we're going to do updates from the system in the state library, and then we have colleagues from CARLI who are going to talk to us about what they do and what they could potentially offer us. And then we're going to do a bit of a round robin in which we're going to ask the people joining us and here in Carbondale to talk about anything they want to about their particular libraries, but also any challenges they might be facing. So that being said, Leslie, would you like to talk about system things?
I would love to talk about system things. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you again. Oh, I guess y'all can hear that the sirens are now done here. It must be the first Tuesday. Okay, in Carbondale. Great. So good morning again. From the system in general, we are busy putting the final pieces together of our fiscal 2020 system area per capita grant application, and the two primary components of that are the budget, and tied very closely to the budget are our operational plan, This year we anticipate having those available for our board committees, and those will be starting, I think the first board committee will be the policy membership, which will meet April 10th, correct, Ellen?
Yeah.
And then it continues with the finance committee and an executive committee look. So the first read for the board will be at the April 30 board meeting, and those will all be online and available for member review. And we'll make a special note and send something out, a notice out to our members so that you can all take a look and comment on those. So the first month, again, it's just the first read. We'd like your feedback. I guess the sirens aren't done.
Wow.
That's good.
A lot.
Yeah, and then the second month will be the final read, and then the vote by our board. So we've got some new things coming up for fiscal year 2020, and we'd really like all of your feedback. Second thing that I'd like to point out is that we have something new on the horizon in June. On June 12th and 13th, we have a program. It's a single day program, but we've got it offered for 2 days. It's called Design Thinking. This is a new approach to strategic planning. Well, not a new approach, a different approach to strategic planning. It's a one-day workshop that's going to be offered in June at our Edwardsville hub. The presenters are from Chicago Public Library. Two of our staff members, Stacy Bouchon and Susan Palmer, attended. Was it last winter or the winter before, maybe?
I feel like it was,
17, maybe?
yes, perhaps.
And we've worked fairly closely with our colleagues at Chicago Public Library to bring them to Southern Illinois. This is the first time that they'll actually have presented it outside of the Chicago area, which is a big deal. This is, I know, so would you like to speak like real quickly to this about what your experience was with this?
It was absolutely fabulous. It was a way to do kind of project management, or if you have an idea and you're looking to develop that idea and implement that idea. It could be something as simple as redoing your lobby when you first walk in, so that it's more welcoming, or what the public is seeing. And it talks about taking a 360 approach. So you're using surveys, you're going out into the community, you're having in-depth interviews to find out different solutions. I liked it because it wasn't just rigid, this is the line I do, this is my idea, here I'm going to do it. It got a lot of input. So by getting that input, it helps you to have the best product or end result that you could have. But it's a different way of thinking. It's basically kind of just like project management, but you have, it's more like a mind mapping if you have ever done mind mapping. Any questions?
So you'll be able to start applying for this on April the 8th, which I think is Sunday. And there is a cost involved in this. I believe it is, if you apply during the early bird period, which is, I'm reading, April 8th to May 15th, it is $50 a person. For us, again, I realize that this is different. There is a cost for us to bring this to our area. That's all inclusive. That'll be snacks during the day. It'll be your lunch, and we're really big on snacks and food because you can't learn. You can't, and all the materials you need for the workshop. You can't learn if you're hungry or if you're cranky or hangry. So it'll be a really comfortable environment, and we really hope that if you're interested, you'll contact Stacy Bouchon. Her contact information is going to be at the bottom of that flyer, and we'll be sending this flyer out, I'm sure, soon. It has to go through our proofing process, of course, and then you'll be able to register for it, like we said, on L2. So if you're interested, please contact Stacy. She can tell you more about it, because I think it can be very beneficial to some of your members, some of your libraries, and some of your staff. So that's one more thing about us. And then the last thing I'd like to share, and it may be, I hope that especially you in this room will find this of interest. And at our board meeting in March, the board agreed to a 5-year lease for the space that we are currently in right now in Carbondale. So we've extended the lease for this facility right here. So we will be in this building now in that the SIUC, I forgot what park this is called. Innovation Park? Research Park? Anyway, through June 30 of 2024. So we see that as a big commitment to our staff here, and especially to our members here. So I know you said you weren't sure how to get here. You'll have plenty of time to get used to it. Yeah. So through 2024. Thank you. Anybody have questions?
I guess we should remind them about the board election, right?
Yes, we should remind you. If you haven't yet voted, we have a board election that's open right now. There are 5 positions. 4 of those are trustee positions, and the 5th one is a public library representative position. The board positions are public library trustee positions. So if you would please vote, the voting is open through the middle of April. And you will also get another reminder because Julie is very good about sending you reminders for our elections. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next update comes from our share staff, and we have 3 share staff here with us. Shelley Stone, Joanne Bauer, and Cassandra Thompson. So Cassie, I'll turn it over to you and you can kick it off.
Okay, thank you so much. So the most pressing news is for share members, our annual agreements have gone out, and I've started getting some of those back. So everyone who sent those in, thank you for returning those so promptly. Another update for share is that we are also revising our e-resources fee scale, but the Finance and Policy Committee actually decided to go ahead and keep this scale the same for fiscal year 20. Everybody's in, well, most of us are in budget season, so you can anticipate your fees being calculated on the same fee scale that they were last year, but we do want to have you anticipate that it will change for fiscal year 21, and so we will be sending that out for member vote probably later in this year. And so One of the things that we did decide to do is when we send out those annual agreements for the e-resources, for those of you that participate in cloud, we will be sending you an estimate for your fiscal year 21 based on what we're thinking the fee scale is heading towards. And so another option that's going to change this year is some libraries really enjoy purchasing for the digital collection for the cloud library. And so they do that above and beyond their annual fees. Some libraries choose not to, and it just goes on into a big pot that we use it for those pay-per-use. We use it for Leslie Zaviduke does all of our ordering for our platform, and so it just goes into a big pot, so we definitely utilize it. One of the things, it was actually Tina Huber at 6 Mile that actually gave the suggestion of, for those libraries who fees might be going down, why don't we ask them to just pay, when we change our fee scale, go ahead and just ask them to pay what they would normally be expected to pay. Well, if we change the fee scale, we're just going to change it. We're not going to ask anybody to pay a different amount than what the fee scale has set. But we are going to allow the option that you can continue to add to our collection budget if you choose to do so. So there will be an optional component there if you'd like to send more to purchasing for that collection. So you can either do it through your own purchasing, which is the process that it is now. So if you want to buy materials above and beyond, we would just bill you for that. Or if you'd like to submit additional funds to collections, it would not go to the platform fee, it would all go to pay-per-use or to collection development. You can choose to do that. We had one librarian who said, I'd love to send more money into that cloud library for collections. I don't want to have to do it. Well, that's the option. Then you can, instead of having your staff or yourself purchasing titles and then you bill, you can just say, hey, put an extra $100 towards our collection. So that's an optional component that you'll see on your bill this year. So I just wanted to have a chance to explain that. And if you have any questions, of course, my staff and I are more than willing to help explain that and go through it with you. The last thing that we have is for all IHLS members. The New York Times had a really great offer for us, and they've extended that deal. Unfortunately, we didn't meet the threshold to get that lower discount for a group purchase, but it's still a great offer, a discount 20% off the list price that they'd offer to individuals. And so if you're interested, please let me know, and we'll get you in contact with our representative, Sophia, so she can get your contract started. Anybody have any questions? Thank you.
Shelley or Joanne, anything?
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay. Well, Susan, then you're up next.
Great. Wonderful. Delivery. Delivery is actually, I don't know if I should say it, if it jinxes it or not, but we're now fully staffed. Like, we have enough sorters, we have enough drivers, we have everything. You know how rare that happens, I'm sure, even in your own libraries, where you actually should be functioning at optimal, which is great. Now, well, and then saying that, we did have, the Arlana, our manager down here in Carbondale, she has found another position. So what we're taking that opportunity to do is that we're evaluating the delivery down here and how we function. Nothing should change to the libraries at all. It's just how we internally are functioning with this hub. One of the things that you may not even realize is that the delivery managers also were in charge of buildings. When you're in charge of buildings in Edwardsville and Champaign, it's a whole nother animal because we own those buildings. So we have to follow getting the 3 bids and making sure they're apples to apples and the roof comes down. That's us. Down here, if the roof came down, well, I'm not saying the roof comes down, but if there's an issue, we just call Amy over in right across the pond here. So she handles all that piece. So that's a big portion of the delivery manager's jobs that simply is not done down here. And so in looking at this, we're trying to figure out what is the best way and the most efficient way to use our funds that we have for delivery. So we're just looking at different models. We have Linda Petty, who's the manager in Edwardsville. She's been coming down. We have Casey down here, who has been fabulous, stepping up, doing scheduling. She's your point person, or Linda Petty in Edwardsville. For any kind of issue that, if there is an issue or anything that does happen. So there's a little bit different contact. And as I'm saying this out loud, I will put out something like official and a memo. I did not think of that. My apologies about that change. So that's kind of the big thing in delivery, as well as we're getting ready for, like Leslie said, the budget, looking at different things for delivery and how we get those funded. I think that's kind of mostly it. Does anybody have any questions or ideas or different ways of doing this? Well, always feel free to speak up, email me, call me, let me know. I love finding different ways to do what we do better. There should be a survey coming out soon.
Julia, anything on the chat? I just saw you smiling.
No.
Okay.
Probably because she thinks I'm nuts.
Well, we could put that on the agenda, but maybe for another meeting.
Ding.
I will put it in the notes.
Okay. Okay. Next, Anna and I are up next with information about membership on Friday morning, probably about 10:30. The last library in IHLS completed their certification. Certainly, I think, Pat or Rita, you could correct me. I think this is the 7th year we've done it. This year, there were 2 of us doing it. Anna and I were both doing it for IHLS, so that made the load quite a bit easier to handle. And you know, it's really funny. It always gets done, but there's always a little bit of drama and angst at the end. And we had that, but again, by 10:30 Friday morning, they were all done. So thanks to all of you who helped us out and got that done in a timely fashion. It's really an interesting process. And you know, quite frankly, it is a good opportunity. The public libraries we all connect with on a relatively regular basis. But some of the others, the specials, the academics, the schools, we don't as much. So this was a really good opportunity for us to get a handle on who's doing what where, and we appreciate all your help. Just as an aside, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I attended the Illinois Youth Services Institute in Bloomington. This is going to be an every other year event sponsored by ILA, and it was the 3rd time they've done it. It is something to keep in mind for staff when you're planning your budgets. There won't be another one until 2021 now, but it's very worthwhile. We did have a good showing of membership there. I was pleased at the people from IHLS with whom I was able to interact. But it is something to keep in the back of your minds because it's just a nice 2-day event that's, you know, all youth services all the time, and the keynotes, the theme was diversity and inclusion, and the keynotes were terrific. So it's something to bear in mind. One very nice thing, I'm going to turn it over to Anna, then I'm going to ask for the floor back a little bit. One very nice thing about having Anna Yaffel on staff is we now have somebody who has really solid experience with working with boards of directors. And for whatever reason, since Anna hit the ground running on June 13th, we've had lots of scenarios of board issues coming up that we've talked about till the cows came home. And one thing we've wanted to do for a long time, and the state library has been encouraging systems to do, is get involved. So I can hand it over to Anna, and she can tell you what's down the road for us.
Well, I think that the role of trustee is a very interesting position because a lot of times people get into it without really understanding what libraries are even, and they really don't understand their role, and it's just kind of sprung on them. And then they stick with it and they try to do the best they can, and they're volunteers and they're devoting their time, and I think we have a lot to be thankful to them for. And I think part of that thankfulness should be in helping mentor them to the next level, because we all know better trustees lead to better libraries. And with that in mind, we are going to have our first trustee training on May 11th in Edwardsville. It's a Saturday. I know we're gonna try different times and different places and all of this kind of stuff. So it'll be Saturday morning at 10 a.m. in Edwardsville. It's free of charge. We will be creating a flyer so you can share it with your trustees. And don't be afraid, we will be moving these events around the entire system. I'm hoping to take it to even like the smallest libraries, because we know we have to bring this to the trustees, because a lot of them, for various reasons, don't like to travel very far. And so I'm very excited. Our first one is going to be with Amy Byers and her board president, who it serves on, actually her board president, her daytime job is working with organizations, nonprofit organizations. So they're going to talk about the role of the trustee and the role of the director. And so I'm hoping, we'll have some people who were brand new trustees be there. So it'll be right after the election. And so we're hoping that, this will be very popular. We're going to ask the people who show up what other kind of subjects they would like to talk about. I've written something for the newsletter, so you can, read more about it there. And, I think there's some obvious topics. So if you have subjects that you would like to suggest we cover as we move this along, and, or if you have your particular building you think would be good to have one of the trustee events at, let me know that. And I'm really excited. I think this will be very positive. We will probably repeat some of the classes throughout, but I'm hoping we can kind of customize this to the various areas too, because in my 10 months of being at IHLS, I realized that we have lots of different areas, and it's kind of like we are all one system. And I love all of you, and it's really been fun getting to know you. But, there are different issues, and there are different kind of concerns in each of the areas. So I'm hoping we can kind of address that. And also, I think the networking component of getting trustees to know each other and to see other libraries than their own is also important. So it's a work in progress. I'll appreciate any comments you can give me, and you know me, you can be as honest as you want. So I appreciate it, and I'll turn it back over to Ellen.
Okay, and to that end, I wrote myself a note while Anna was speaking. We're really trying to work on getting accurate contact information for trustees. So if any of you look at your L2 accounts, and make sure, first of all, that your accurate list, that what's in there for your trustees is accurate. You should, if you're a library director, you should all be able to edit your own account of staff, employees, and trustees. So make sure what you have in there is accurate, and if you can include an email address, that would be amazingly helpful, because we'd love to be at a point where we could push information out directly to trustees. And Ann and I have had this conversation a number of times. It certainly won't be anything daily. It won't be anything weekly. If we were doing monthly things, that would be amazing. So it wouldn't be anything that would involve an overload of information in their inboxes, but we would love to have a way to directly push things out. And just as a point of information, on April 24th, I believe, staff members are going to meet with our colleagues from Rails in Edwardsville for the day and talk about what a new L2 might look like. So stay tuned, because that's always an exciting change when things like that happen. And L2, I hate to date myself, but I can remember Kim and I sitting in the back of the Carterville building inputting names of people who hadn't done stuff. And so, it's time to take another look at L2 and see where it goes from here.
Sorry.
When I sent you information yesterday, I sent you the agenda, I sent you a document called Mark Your Calendars, and this is just something we always like to share with you so everybody knows what's going on in the upcoming months and calendars. And some of these things won't apply to you at all, but just so you have the idea of what's happening. A number of us are gearing up for the Elevate Conference, which will be a one-day in Springfield on April 27th. We have Anna's workshop there for trustees on May 11th. Reaching Forward South is going to be held in Carbondale on May 17th. And Susan and Julia have served on that committee, and I've asked Susan if she can talk about it a little bit.
Okay, great. Reaching Forward South, we're having this actually in the Carbondale area, which none of us could remember the last time there was a conference. This is actually, we can say south. That's fairly crazy, you know, I mean, they say south. Yesterday I heard south was Odell. If anybody knows where Odell is, they said that was south at this ILA meeting. I'm like, wow. Anyway, so this will be a conference at SIUC. We've got some amazing speakers coming in. A lot of our libraries have stepped up. We've got strategic planning coming from Amanda and Effingham. Julia, can you help me out with some of those other titles? My mind just blanked, but I can see the flyer.
The census.
The census. Joe Natale from the State Library is coming down to talk about that and how important, really, really important it is to get everybody counted down south. And you know, the whole IHLS area. It's so important because so many things hinge on the numbers that we get, from funding to grant opportunities to just the way that this is viewed to our elected officials. This census thing coming up is huge. And the more people that we can get in to be counted and for them to realize this isn't a, okay, I can't use that example, but it's not designed to be where there'll be policing involved with this, and to assure them that there's no policing involved. It just is what it is, and if you're here or not in Southern Illinois or Illinois. Julia, sorry.
Oh, well, I had to call it up. I wasn't expecting that one. Karina is going to be doing a program. She's from the Mississippi Valley Library District. One of their locations, the Fairmount City, their patron populage, or that was wrong. They're 71% Hispanic. So she's talking about that. Diana Brawley-Sussman and Leander Spearman are going to be talking about a program on pantries and social workers in the libraries, address challenges of poverty and homelessness. Susan mentioned the strategic planning. Bobby Perryman's going to do a program on time for an upgrade, alternatives to Dewey. We have what's trending in the digital library. So there's several different programs that might be of interest. We also have one that is more on a radical program and something to look forward to.
And also, it certainly is an unmatched networking opportunity. You know, I can remember being in Edwardsville last year and just seeing all kinds of folks that it was fun to spend the day with. So we'd really encourage you, and certainly if you come that day, this building will be open. We'd love to tour anybody around.
Can I add something?
Uh-huh.
Illinois Heartland Library System has supported members attending Reaching Forward South in previous years, and we'll do that the same way this year for members who aren't able to, don't have the cost of the conference fee in their budget. If they would reach out to Ellen or Anna or myself, we'll make sure that we take care of that for you. So, because it is important, and we realize the value of having that conference in the southern part of our service area is huge. So,
yeah,
just wanted to stick that in. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Julia.
Ellen, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Kayla also wanted to say that she's from the Collinsville Library, that their marketing and programming coordinator, Terry Pearson will also be presenting at Reaching Forward South. His topic will be about how to plan for video games in the library collection and how to tie them into successful programs for adults and teens.
Good. And on your handout, those are all hot links there, so that link should take you right to the page for Reaching Forward South. In June, we have Director Zhu, and Anna's going to be on that committee this year, and we have a healthy number of new directors from IHLS attending, so that's always good. And I'm looking around at alums sitting around this table, whether it was Spill Me or Director Zhu, and it's a good week for people who attend. So we're really happy that that's in place and that we can offer that to new directors. That's such a good thing. In the fall, I included the Arsenal Conference on this handout because it was such a hit in Springfield. We know there's been a lot of enthusiasm for people who are able to continue to attend that conference. So in this September, it will be in Burlington, Vermont, and the following September, it will be in Kansas City.
Yes.
Which is drivable. You know, that's a really easy drive. The other drivable conference I put down here was that next winter, it's February, but the Public Library Association Conference will be in Nashville. Again, you know, we can get in our cars and get our bodies there. So it's certainly, as far as travel and travel budgets, that brings it into a more doable consideration. And finally, we do have a date set for Member Day next year, and that is Thursday, November 7th. It will be at the Thelma Keller Conference Center in Effingham. We thoroughly went over the survey results that you submitted in your evaluations, and there's always talk about changing that location. And we've talked about it, and we're going to keep it at the Keller Conference Center at least for one more year. And the reason behind that being, we'd like to add more sessions. We'd like to see if we can't do a thread of some sort for trustees. We'd like to see if we can't do a thread of some sort for schools. And if we do that, we just need space. And we know, we've worked with the people at the Convention Center in Effingham long enough to know we can make this happen and they'll make it doable for us. So mark your calendars, please, November 7th in Effingham. We'd love to see you all there. Any questions or anything I forgot that's coming up? Because this is good information to share.
There is one other thing. April 5th, there's a movie coming out called The Public.
Oh, yeah.
With Emilio Estevez. It talks about, loads of things. Media involvement and how they can, not skew, but kind of skew. They can put their own take on situations. It talks about homelessness. It talks about freezing temps and shelters are full and what's the role of the library. You know, and it's a story about how in Cincinnati there was a big cold snap and there was a group of homeless people that, you know, frequent the library all the time, but they usually leave at closing, and they kind of took over the library. Well, they did. They staged a sit-in, you know, like back from the 60s. How cool is that? And so they took over that library, and it also shows the political involvement in that as well. It is, I encourage anyone, if you have it, if you're able to see if it's in the area. That's the trouble. I searched because I was going to go, you know, with signs, and I just am really excited about this. However, it looked like the closest place was Naperville. So I don't know.
Belleville, I think.
Yes.
Leander posted
Belleville
something
getting it?
yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah, Leander arranged with a library there and they've been trying to get other theaters to do it, but they've been reluctant. So, but yes, definitely Belleville, and Leander has purchased a whole block of seats for his library and but there will be more seats available, and I'm going to try to make it.
Is that Friday then?
I'm not sure, probably.
Is it the first day, April 5th?
It would be this Friday.
Okay. I will. Oh my gosh, I got to make a sign now. But I think that's really important, and it shows libraries and our role and how we do function with, we're like the last stand for loads of things.
Has anybody, I'm looking, I see a Springfield and I see Diane and Miranda, people in other geographic locations. Has anybody found a showing in your neck of the woods?
No.
No? That's really too bad.
Yeah, I'm surprised Champaign doesn't have something. You figure, well, I'm surprised Carbondale didn't like leap on it too, but we don't have that many theaters down here either.
No, we don't.
Yeah,
Well,
we have
Emilio, my
we
friend.
have an art theater. There's an art theater in Champaign, but I don't see it on their schedule yet. I'm hoping that they'll just get it a little later, but I can email it if it happens. I can email the group.
Sure, that'd be
Thank
great.
you, Miranda.
Yeah.
Emilio did say that you had to kind of speak up for this and partner with at first he didn't have the funding, but now Paramount Pictures is supporting that. It was an independently written, independently directed. He actually got this idea 12 years ago. And it's been that long in the making, but they did it in 22 days. And they shot it in the Cincinnati library and they had at night. And I guess, well, I won't give away anything else, never mind.
But you can Google it and you can see like a trailer and it looks really interesting and compelling.
Thanks, Susan.
Ellen,
Yes, Julia.
Scott was saying there is also a very interesting episode of the podcast 99% Invisible at 99pi.org called Places for the People. It is quite interesting and speaks to the value of social infrastructures in towns, including featuring libraries.
Thanks.
And really Lauren is saying that the Belleville screening is on April 24th at 6 p.m.
Oh, time.
Okay.
It's a day.
Thank you, Susan. That was great to bring up. That was perfect to bring up. The final document we shared with you was the analysis of the membership survey that we did a couple of weeks ago. This was a combined effort by Leslie and I and Zach Henderson, but Shandy gets a lot of credit for making it look pretty. So we really appreciate that. And for those of you who aren't familiar with this effort, what we did was we took the first three goals of and first of all, I have to back up and time this out better. We're working on our operational plan for the upcoming fiscal year. So we sent this survey out based on our strategic plan to make sure that what we were putting in this operational plan for the upcoming year matched what we really saw that members needed or members wanted or members appreciated. And so the three goals have to do with resource sharing, networking, and continuing education and consulting. Those are the three goals we have that touch all of you the very most. And there were things that came out of that survey that didn't surprise us a bit. You love delivery and you love share. And it's affirming to know that. It's very good to know that. I think one surprise, and this was a very pleasant surprise, was how positive people were about using this Zoom technology. And really, it has changed things up for us all so much. Meetings are easier, all those kinds of things are better because we have this capability. Things that we know from this survey that geography is always going to be a challenge. Always going to be a challenge. And we are certainly firmly committed to working with those challenges. And there were things we saw that needed improvement that we know we do. The most glaring thing that always leaps out at me when I look at this is how we need to reach out to schools. And that's something that since the transition into new system structures hasn't been picked up. So that being said, has anybody looked at that document? Does anybody have anything they'd like to add, or Leslie or Shandy, or anything that you took away from it?
Not particularly?
That's
at this
fine.
time? Okay.
Shandy?
Not at this time.
Okay, okay. Did anybody have a chance to look it over or take the survey and have any reaction to it?
I guess I just want to thank everybody that participated in the survey. We didn't have it out for a long time. I think it was only out for 2 weeks, and we got quite a few responses. So we were really pleased with the feedback very quickly.
Yep. And it will certainly go into our operational plan. It is good to get feedback from all of you.
Yeah, and you will see that. We
Yep.
want you to see that.
Okay, I see our friends at the State Library waiting very patiently. Pat and Rita, do you want to give us an update?
Thank you, Ellen. Greetings from the Secretary of State, Jesse White, and the Illinois State Library. I might be repeating a couple of the things that have been already presented, but I just wanted to, give our take on some of these things as well. I want to just say thank you so much to everyone for completing the annual certification and the Illinois traffic survey. Congratulations to IHLS libraries for 100% compliance. Yay, bravo. And that comes, and thanks to the IHLS staff for their help in accomplishing this. Just to put a finer point on it, the annual certification confirms a library's compliance with the Illinois statutes and administrative rules, and is required of all library system members in order to retain system membership and eligibility for grants administered by the Illinois State Library. And the statistical component, we collect this information, we analyze the resource sharing and reciprocal borrowing statistics from the survey. The data, we're able to track trends, and we are able to provide justification of resources to important services such as delivery. Talking about the Reaching Forward South Conference that's coming up on May 17th in Carbondale, myself and Jeannie Urbanik will be presenting a program that is about the Public Library Per Capita Grant and the IFLAR. Are you frustrated? Do you need help? Do you need clarifications? That's what we're going to do. We're going to try and find a catchy program title for this, but it's basically a chance for people to come and hear us talk about the basics of these two surveys, and also to provide an opportunity for people to ask questions and delve a little bit deeper. There may be, every year there are certain requirements for the per capita grant that the libraries are required to do, and Jeannie's going to expand on that. And I will be talking about the IFLAR. It will be just fascinating, I know, for everyone. You can't wait, can you? Joe Natale will be focusing on the 2020 census and on the actions that frontline librarians can take to ensure a complete and accurate 2020 census count and other library-related census activities. He is taking the charge on that statewide. A loss of population directly impacts libraries with a reduction in federal funding from the Institute of Museum and Library Services grants to states under the Library Services and Technology Act, as well as the state's annual Public Library Per Capita and Equalization Grant Program. So it is very important that everyone in Illinois is counted, and for the many reasons that Susan also enumerated. It's very important that we get the count in. Grant applications for adult literacy programs and Project Next Generation are in the process of being reviewed. On May 9th, we have a couple of programs here at the State Library. The library will be honoring outstanding achievements made by adult learners or families and outstanding contributions to literacy made by adult literacy volunteer tutors. at the Spotlight on Achievement and Spotlight on Service Awards ceremonies. Also, we will be recognizing the state winners of the Letters About Literature program. The program invites 4th to 12th grade students to read a book of their choice, reflect on it, and write a personal letter to the author explaining how the book changed their views of the world and or themselves. These letters, I'm a reviewer as well for this program, and it's just absolutely incredible to read the breadth and depth of insight of these students when they write their letters. We received a total of over 4,000 letters from students statewide. And I'm going to turn the mic over to Rita Stevens to talk about P&G monitoring.
Yes. As you know, P&G, the applications now, we're in the situation of reviewing them. And that will take time. I hope to have that all reviewed and such by the April 15th. And I did do a monitoring visit, which I truly enjoyed doing. And I've mentioned this once before, but I've been to Marian. And I spoke with their director, Dave Patton, along with Sarah Watkins and Katie, and also attended Katie's 3D printing with the students. And it's quite a learning experience. Recruitment is done by Sarah, and she's the public relations contact for the Marian Carnegie Library. And it's very much a team effort. Their youth services, the marketing, the director, they all work together to have a successful P&G program. And they serve the schools in Marian, Crab Orchard, and Pittsfield. And their demographics are of homeschoolers, private school, and public. And they had an excellent financial record keeping. They talked about on their spreadsheet, which was called the non-governmental 56260 spreadsheet, and they contain date of order, date received, the company, PO number, invoice number, name of item purchased, cost, beginning balance of the grant remaining line by line, and date paid, of course. Suggestions, they brought parents in, and I've also heard that at another monitoring visit, that they bring the parents in and the parents feel much more comfortable leaving the children there and also seeing what is being presented at the library. And like many, it is a challenge to build attendance. There were 3 to 5 at some sites that I've gone to, and they just have to keep building. That's just something they have to work on. And the activities they have, Marian's very much wanting to share with other libraries. They have worksheets to share, which would be good for other sites to see how do you do a lesson plan. And they have it step by step. And she did post to the listserv talking about that they're very much wanting to share their flyers. They have flyers of Code Club and all their Spiral Code workshops. And any flyers that they have, they'll share that also. And what was most, the assessment and impressive was that financial tracking, which is important to us to have, of course, when the auditors come, because you can just open that up and see exactly what's been spent. And the team, they had such a neat team approach to this. It just wasn't, here you go, wasn't turned over to one person. It was a diverse group of people working to make this a success. And I also went to Lincoln Library too and saw their 2 sessions. They had one at George Washington School, which they're scripting, learning to script and maybe produce a podcast. And then the other was held here the other day at the YMCA, that group of girls with I Am Enough Club. And it was so interesting to see coming from the teaching background, to see how each session was held. It was very, very nice. And I'm so impressed with how much they do with such little money. They do such a nice job. And we talked about L2 update. Please do that, because I've had calls wanting P&G applications, and I didn't know. I looked at L2 and I didn't see the name, so I called the director to see if this was with their library. So it is so important, like when we're doing grants, at least I'm checking to see who's calling me and to make sure that there's an update there. That would have been helpful. Do you have any questions or anything? Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Pat, you tripped something in my head, and Anna, correct me if I'm wrong, or whoever worked on this. The design thinking workshop meets a requirement of the area per capita grant, right? And which requirement? Is it organizational management?
Yes, organizational management. And I think this would fall well under that and kind of knock that requirement out at one fell swoop and be excellent training as well.
So another reason to come. That's a lot of bang for your buck to do that. Before we wrap up the updates, Shelley, you have a piece of good news to share about cataloging in this building that we forgot about.
Yes, I got a new cataloger, and she has been cleaning out my office and getting all kinds of cataloging done, so I'm very happy.
Yeah, Shelley's office looks different than it ever has.
Yes. You can actually walk in.
So come visit anytime. It's nice to have that suite of offices fill up with Anna and Dina now. So that's a very nice thing for us in this part of the state.
Can I also add to that?
Yes.
Just as staffing announcements, we also have a new circulation e-resources specialist, Zach Henderson, who's come to us from the Share IT department. But he is actually hitting the road this week to roll out e-resources training for libraries. And so if you are interested in that, I can tell you where he'll be this week. He will be at Columbia Public Library on Tuesday, Marissa Area Public Library on Wednesday, and Fairview Heights on Friday. And so if you're interested in that and would like to bring him into your area, just go ahead and send me an email, or you can also reach him at zhenderson@illinoisheartland.org. So we're also very excited to have him on board.
Really nice guy.
Yes, he is. Well, Carly, I'm not sure which Carly staff person you are. My apologies. But thank you for waiting for us, and the floor is yours. And if you can start with an overview for those of us newer to this game than some of us about what Carly does and where Carly fits in the state picture, we're delighted to hear and give you whatever input you need.
Okay, thank you, Ellen, and thanks everybody. It's nice to see and hear all of you. I'm Cindy Clinton. I'm the Director of Electronic Resources at CARLI. And I am joined, although you cannot see them, by several of my colleagues, and I will let them introduce themselves really quickly.
Excuse me. I'm Jenny Taylor, and I am Electronic Resources Assistant for Cindy.
I'm Margaret Chambers, Membership and Communications. Diane Day, Business Services.
It's sad that you have to look at me and not be able to see all of them. I could actually start around tiny, but we're not going to do that. So thank you all for setting aside a little time in your meeting this morning to talk to us about a potential new program for CARLI. And as Ellen included in the agenda for today, CARLI is a consortium of academic and research libraries in Illinois. We have currently have 128 member libraries. All of the community colleges, all of the state public institutions of higher education, and the vast majority of the community colleges. We also have research libraries like the Newberry and the Field Museum, and also the Illinois Math and Science Academy. And CARLI offers a number of programs to our members, all with the overarching goal of improving resource sharing for all of the member libraries, and those include the shared catalog. We also operate an allied delivery service program, and then the e-resources brokering program. So those are the major components of the things that we do. And CARLI's been around since 2005. It was formed after the merger of 3 similar organizations in Illinois doing sort of the various functions that CARLI currently offers. And we're funded with a mix of state appropriation and member fees. So that's kind of a basic overview of what we're doing and who we are. A couple of our members I see are included in the meeting today. Catherine Silvers and Miranda are members of CARLI as well. And so they can correct anything wrong. What we're here to talk about this morning is specifically our e-resources brokering program. And CARLI has been offering brokering. Actually, the three member organizations that became CARLI were all offering brokering in one form or another. And CARLI has taken over the central functions of all of those three groups. And we have a really large program currently. We service all 128 of our member libraries. In fiscal and calendar year 19, we offered 799 journal packages or databases. We manage just shy of 3,000 subscriptions. And we have built a really large online system to make the process as simple as possible for both our member libraries, the vendor community that we work with, and the CARLI staff that are working with. And so one of the things, and of course it goes without saying that with the kind of economies of scale that CARLI can provide to our members, we're able to negotiate some pretty significant discounts for them. So one of the things we're considering at this point is expanding our brokering program beyond our membership to include academic or public and K-12 libraries. And what we're doing right now is trying to gather some information as to whether the members of Heartland would be interested in something like that. I think initially when we conceived this, we were thinking about the vendors that we work with and the products that we offer that are ones that you may not be currently offering, but we sort of expanded that view to encompass vendors and products that we may not be familiar with that would be of interest to public and K-12 libraries. And we see this as advantageous both because we can utilize the significant infrastructure that we have, but also, at least when we discussed this initially with our board, particularly our community college libraries, were saying, you know, we really love the idea of being able to offer the same kinds of resources to the K-12 marketplace because those students become our students who subsequently become students at the four-year institutions in the state. So what we're trying to figure out at this point and really need your help with is initially, would something like that be of interest to the communities within Heartland? I'll give you all a chance to let us know what you think of that idea.
And we're waiting for the members to speak up. This isn't something the system's gonna chime in on as much as input from membership. What kind of e-resources would you be interested in? That, I think that's the question. Or additional e-resources.
Right. Yeah,
Kim Keller says she's interested in learning more.
Okay. Currently, CARLI works with some of the major vendors out there, EBSCO, ProQuest, Gale, and we've had some preliminary conversations with them as well about whether they thought something like this could work. And as I said, we offer a lot of products, some of which I think would be interesting. I don't have the list in front of me, but I think that's one of the things we're looking for some feedback in whether there are particular products that would be of interest. Hi, Don in Philo. As a resident of Philo, I'm glad to hear that. But if there are particular products that you see or types of products that would be of interest, we would be more than happy to hear about that as we start to structure this process.
Okay. Let me see. Kim said she's interested in learning more. And Don said he would have an interest in accessing magazine databases. As always, cost is a factor.
Absolutely.
And Rachel said she's interested too.
Okay. We do offer, we are currently, like I said, we work with EBSCO and ProQuest, some of the largest aggregators for magazine content and journal content. And as I said, we've had some preliminary conversations with them about doing something like this. And I think there's another aspect to this that hasn't been mentioned so far, and that is that this sort of program would be offered on a fee basis to the public and K-12 libraries. And we're looking for some feedback as well on a type of fee structure that would be reasonable. We certainly wouldn't want to set up anything and then, put a fee structure in place that we didn't have some input on. So that's another question that we have. I think the procurement system may well require that CARLI do an RFP for this, because we would be doing a new set of license agreements with the vendors that we work with and any vendors that are recommended to us. And that process, I think, would probably require some sort of an advisory group to help us do this. We certainly do not believe that we're in a position to make all of these decisions, and so we're looking for recommendations on the type of content, the type of fee structure that would be most productive and helpful and would allow the most libraries to participate. And what we can do too is we can certainly pose these questions, and I'm happy to provide all our contact information to Ellen so that people can reach out to us to provide feedback beyond this call. I'm springing this on you here all of a sudden. The other question that we have relates to the licensing cycles for public and K-12 libraries. CARLI currently has sets of license agreements that operate on both a fiscal year from July to June and a calendar year from January to December. And so we would hope that we would be able to synchronize those cycles to allow our vendors to continue to work with us in the way they do.
Any input on e-resources that you'd like to have or that you don't have? Is there anything on your wish list that's just kind of beyond what you can do with your current budget, that if there was a discount might be more doable for you?
Ellen, Rachel said, while she's also interested, I would be happy to help and provide feedback beyond this call. We'll be sure to reach out. Looking forward to receiving contact information.
Well, that's easy to get out. Crystal, you were going to say something?
One thing that probably our patrons ask for the most we would need like a newspaper database that's searchable. We have all, but it has to be our local paper is what they're looking for, and I know that's hard to find. I think we used to be on newspapers.com, and now our paper isn't on that anymore. They are wildly expensive, so that would be really nice to have that searchable newspaper database.
Also, I looked at one point to Linda, and it's all kinds of learning, things online, and I hear it's fantastic, but it was way out of our price range. But
what is it?
Lynda.com.
Linda, yeah.
Oh yeah, I've heard of
You can
too.
take
Like different
thousands of
classes and.
Well, and then there's like Gale courses too, which is nice. That's like kind of 6 weeks of college level kind of classes. You can take on a variety of subjects, and it's like asynchronous where, you pull it up, you can watch the class, and, you have a little bit of homework and you get a certificate of completion. That's really nice and was very popular in some of the libraries I've worked in the past too. And it's nice because you can coordinate it with programming for your library too.
Miranda also commented, as a member of CARLI, currently paying an annual fee, really just so she can receive brokered databases, as she has her cataloging delivery through IHLS. She is concerned about a fee structure that will be very difficult for most small public libraries to pay for. And as a member of the Policy and Finance Committee, she's witnessed a strong concern for fees becoming higher. So it has to be reasonable for this to work.
Thank you, Miranda. I think that's absolutely true. And we're certainly committed to that. Hi, Scott.
Hello. I would just add to that by saying that I know that there is also historically been some pushback from membership, even on IHLS, talking about brokerage fees. We tried to do something in the past at one point, and there was some talk about that, and there was a lot of pushback on it. And I guess I would also add to what Miranda is saying in that, you know, the lowest membership level. I mean, my institution pays what is currently the lowest at the lowest membership level, and that would be a not insignificant amount of money for a public library or a K-12 library. It certainly brings a lot of benefit. Sorry, I'll sidebar for everybody else. That's about $2,000, I think, for the coming year. I think it's something in that neighborhood. So that gives you an idea. Now, paying that membership fee, I really can't talk. Gets you access to a lot of database content. And Cindy, if you're talking about like maybe the core package of EBSCO, or you know, the core package that's provided for that membership fee, it would be in and of itself a huge boost for a lot of public libraries and a lot of school libraries, and I could definitely see the attraction in doing that. I just think the ability for a lot of those institutions to pay that kind of a membership fee, it could be dicey. It really could. So that's something I think it's definitely going to have to be built into anything like that.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Scott. No, that's absolutely been an important part of the discussion of how we can make this work broadly, because there's no point in setting up a program if nobody's going to participate. So, and hopefully an advisory group would be able to provide us some feedback on the best approach to this that will appeal to the largest number of libraries.
Okay, thank you.
Cindy, just so I understand, you're talking about a separate fee structure for these databases that's outside of what CARLI financial arrangements currently are, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. My second question is, have you gotten any input from the K-12 community yet?
Very little so far. I think
I'm just curious as to what they'd like.
Somebody from one of the middle schools was on the call when we talked to the people at Rails, and agreed that it would be, wonderful. As in the preliminary discussion, at least there was interest from one person anyway.
Elaine at Waterloo is saying she thinks it's a good idea. Cost, of course, is a factor. What kind of fee structure would you be looking at? A subscription-based fee or a per-use basis?
Well, speaking as somebody who does e-resources all the time, a per-use fee sounds like a nightmare to me. So I think in our preliminary discussions, we were talking about either a fee structure to participate in the program itself, sort of an entry fee to allow you to be in to broker, or a fee per database subscription. I really don't want to manage usage stuff. So those were sort of the two options we had been considering before. But we are absolutely open to anything except per use, because that would be a nightmare.
Anything else for Cindy? This is a great opportunity to open your mouth and tell CARLI what kind of e-resource could make a difference in your library.
Okay, I have a couple more. Rachel said, as a former K-12 librarian, she is a fan. She is also a fan of looking into this matter from both a now public and a former K-12 perspective for what that's worth. Gloria said she previously worked at a CARLI library, so she wonders if public libraries would want to use the digital collections with Content DM for the historical collections. And Diane said, as a small school librarian in a small Public Library. She is also interested. She doesn't think it will be interest that would be the issue as much as cost.
Right. So I will take away from this, cost is king, so we will write that in big letters on our notes. And that doesn't come as any surprise to us at all. But I thank you all for your input. This has been really helpful. And as I said, I will provide Ellen with contact information so that if additional feedback comes in, we are more than happy to hear from you, and we will keep you posted as this moves forward in terms of the next steps and what it is that we want to do.
Thank you, Cindy. That was perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ellen. And I will sign off, and y'all can continue with your roundtable discussion. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Kim's also saying, I mean, and it's the same thing, cost is the biggest factor. A lot of us will be contending with a lot due to the minimum wage increase in Illinois.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay, Julia, that's probably a really good segue. When we looked at the survey results, a couple people mentioned that they missed doing a round robin as part of these Members Matter meetings. So we're going to try and incorporate that a little bit. And it's also a really nice opportunity, 2 weeks into Shandy's tenure here, to give her a little feel about what's going on in our libraries and what we're doing, what challenges we're facing, just a little bit of flavor. So I'm gonna call people, and let's start with the people I can see on the screen. Rick, would you talk a little bit about Decatur and what's going on?
Sure. We just City Council just approved a new parking lot, and if you've ever been in our parking lot, you know that's about 10 years overdue. So hopefully they will be bidding it out this month. It's still possible. It's going to be much nicer. It wouldn't take much to be much nicer, but it's going to be much nicer, and it's going to incorporate a lot of green space. We're looking forward to the opportunity to have some outdoor programming. We're excited about that. The downside is we're going to have less parking. But for those of you who've been to our library, you may have noticed a double-decker parking lot right across the street from us. Right now, there's probably 11 cars in there. So we have plenty of overflow. And in some cases, it's actually closer to the front door than parking in our parking lot, which you could park a quarter of a mile away and still be in our parking lot. So rather than just have a tarmac out there, they've decided to do some innovative stuff, and I'm really, really happy about that. We're also looking into we're in the early stages. We're working with product architecture design out of Chicago, and we're in the very early stages of space planning. And we're looking at some really exciting things. We don't have a dedicated teen space. We don't have private study rooms, and all those things are on the table. Cross-plan maker space and some more meeting space, and we're pretty excited.
That's very cool. That's very cool. Thank you, Rick. Esther, what's going on in Mount Vernon?
Still slugging away at trying to figure out financing to build our expansion annex. We've gone full circle again, and it's so much cost either way. They can't decide what they're going to do, and fundraising has not been very, people are just not open to it right now. So we're kind of taking a step back and doing that. So we're focusing on some programming, partnering with the community for some different things. Our most recent is DCFS requires, well, many things require license or fingerprinting through DCFS. And so we are providing a location for them to come and do their fingerprinting. We started a couple weeks ago, and so a lot of people come through. So it's kind of interesting to see that process working. So lots of family-oriented programs coming up, and summer reading is just around the corner.
Esther, are the DCFS people coming to your current location to
Yes.
do that? Like, do you have dedicated space?
They use our second floor meeting room, which is a small room that it can seat about 7 or 8 people around a table. So it's usually a 1 or 2 people thing going on. So it's a perfect size for it, and that way it frees up space at the DCFS office, because they're located, I think, out of Springfield. It's Biometrics is who does it. But I know DCFS, that's who they contracted with when we went through our adoption process, and we had to go to the DCFS office. It would have been nice to just walk to the other end of the floor and do my fingerprints. But so yeah, that's what we're doing now. So
That's cool. Thank you. Scott, what's going on?
Helps if I unmute. We're right in the middle of the budget process, which is made a bit more difficult. I mean, I'm not going to whinge about budgets when I know there's a lot of other people in the state who are worse off than I am. We're not back to where we were in 2015. The institution is a lot closer to it than the library is. That's when because of the state funding, that's when we took our biggest hit, and we haven't gotten our way back to that point yet. We just recently proposed trying to get our library fee increased for the coming fiscal year, and it got rejected. So I'm balancing e-resources now in terms of subscriptions that are going to have to be cut to keep paying for others whose prices continue to go up, as we all know that they do. Mostly we're doing, at this point it's doing outreach. We're doing a fair amount of library instruction, and I wasn't aware of the brokering discussion. That I don't go to many of the CARLI meetings, so but it makes sense to me, since so many students come to us directly out of K-12, and that makes sense to me. To sort of have some of those resources shared. We try to reach out to our K-12 partners, especially dual credit classes and things like that, because they're our students officially. And so we will go to K-12 libraries and do instruction sessions if that works out for our partners. And that's for both Sarah Hill and I, that's a real priority, because we want to be able to reach out and contact students that way. So that's sort of an ongoing process. We're struggling with some building issues. We're actually getting an expansion of a building, an existing building on campus. It's displacing people, which means that we now have some displaced people in public spaces in the library, which is a little awkward, but that should end, knock wood, at the end of May or June, and it will give us some additional space on campus for services that have needed it for a while. So I don't think we're going to be getting a new library building anytime within my lifetime, or probably the next, unless I get really, really lucky with a lottery ticket. So I think that's about the only way, because we are literally, our campus is kind of a round shape overall, and we are right in the middle. So we're sort of landlocked, and the only way to go is up or out. And there certainly are days when I'd like to just pull my computers out and get my staff out and take the place down to the ground and start fresh. But that's probably not going to happen either. So anyway, enough from me. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Scott. Scott, I've got a nosy question, and that's all it is. What's the current library fee, and what did you want to try and raise it to?
Back in the mid 90s, when like we got our first internet database, Gale back then. Our president at the time said, "Look, I can see this is going to be a coming thing. We need to invest in. We don't really have the budget as the college to." Keep putting money into that all the time. So he instituted a library fee, sort of like almost like a course fee kind of thing that students pay. Yeah. It started at 50 cents a credit hour. That was applied to basically on-campus students for the most part. It does apply to some other students. It does not apply to dual credit students, so they can access those products basically for free. But it is currently $1 a credit hour. I had actually thought it was $1.50 per credit hour, and I found out that I think during the budget crunch, it kind of got rolled back. And so what I was asking for it was to be bumped to either $1.25 or $1.50. But we also increased our bookstore fee because one of the things that is the bane of our existence as an academic institution is we rent textbooks. So we try and save our students money that way, but so many textbooks now come with codes. Students have to buy those codes because they can't be reused. And so we're trying to increase local funding to pay for that and to give the students a bit of a break so they're not out of pocket so much. So that's where the fee is right now and what it's for. That basically pays for our e-resource budget. So that's what it was sort of tasked to do. It doesn't pay for personnel. It doesn't really pay for materials. It, or, for print and that kind of thing. It pays for e-resources. So.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I was just really curious as to where that fee might be. Diane, you want to talk about Mason City?
Sure. We just finished 6 weeks of Lego Club, which we had an average of attendance of about 30 to 35. Anywhere from 4 years old to 8 years old, but man, are they a fun group. They all get along so well, but we're exhausted, so we're glad the 6 weeks is over. We just did spring break. The students were out of school, so we had the outside library windows tinted, which was a really neat experience to watch, to see. I'm glad I don't have to climb on those ladders. We are glad it's done. We did it during break so that it wouldn't interfere with the kids coming in and out and no one would end up off of a ladder or on top of someone else. What else are we doing? Oh, we're getting ready for Easter. We're going to do one of those kind of like a Build-A-Bear workshop. So we're pretty excited about that. We hope we end up having maybe 30 participants in that. I think that pretty much sums up how busy we've been lately. We're doing more programming. I mean, it's not that we're ignoring the other end, but we're really trying to ramp up our programming with the kids. And it really helps. Oh, we're doing a praying mantis program, which I'll be honest, I'm not participating in that. That's all on my end. I'm not really thrilled with praying mantises, especially since they tell me that little nest that's sitting on the desk out there will hatch about 400 of them. So that's
Thanks, Diane.
No problem, Ellen.
You went out with a bang, Diane. That was. Okay, Crystal, does Harrisburg have any praying mantises?
No, I did have one huge one fall down my shirt on the porch, so I mean at my house. That doesn't have anything to do with the library, but it was quite an experience. Many of my neighbors saw it. I put on a real show. But as far as the library goes, we've also been, I think, really focusing on programming the last year, just because I feel like that's something that people talk about the library more than, hey, I just went and got 5 books at the library, but they will say, I just went to a really interesting program at the library. So we just had a guy who was a sketch artist, for, I think, the Elgin Police Department, and he came into our Crime Lovers Book Club, and there were
Oh,
41
fun.
people there, which is for us. Jesse, yes,
Yeah.
Rouse, and he really did it for free. We, gave him some money, but, and Emily, our children's librarian, is fantastic. She had a Fancy Nancy tea party the other day, which was wild and crazy. So we have been trying to do those kinds of things. I'm getting ready to start outreach to one of the residential living facilities in our town. So wish me luck on that. I'm gonna go sign them up for library cards. So hopefully that all goes smoothly. And we did win Small Business of the Year from our Saline County Chamber.
Do you have pictures?
I didn't get to go because I was hosting an Oscars party at the library, but Emily and Ray went, and they have some really cute pictures that they took, yes.
They'd be really good for Facebook or our newsletter, right, Julia?
Yes, send me something.
Okay.
Scott wants to say he's super, super proud of his niece, who is a children's librarian there.
He should be super proud of her. She's fantastic.
The library world is a very small one, isn't it? Okay, how about Redbud?
We're also starting to think about the $15 minimum wage. I think we're good for this year, but next year's budget we'll have to look at really closely. We have something that's a little bit unusual for us. We have someone from the Census Bureau coming in later this month, and he will be there for a couple hours, and at this point they're looking for workers for the census. So he will help people register if they want to work for the Census Bureau. So it's an easy service to offer, so we're going to do that.
And El Dorado, ma'am.
All kinds of different things. As far as programs go, we always try to have programs going on all throughout the month for all different age groups. We get a lot of compliments on that because we are so small and we're a staff of a total of 5 people. But last year we started an evening book discussion group club, whatever, called the Dewey Decimators. And people love that. That's holding pretty strong. Basically every month is a different genre or subgenre or theme. Last month was We Can Do It, and the book had to feature a female lead character in it. And then we started back in January with a crafting club, which we call Too Legit to Knit crafting club. And I was like, we aren't changing it, that's what it's staying as. And people are like, but do you knit? I'm like, we're too legit. But if someone wanted to come in and offer to show us how to knit, we'd take them. It's not gonna be me because I can't do it. But anyway, we offer like our story time, and we have movie nights, which are always well attended. But as far as like other things going on at the libraries, we've discussed, with my board and I have discussed the minimum wage thing. We think we should be okay. We have the other full-time librarian who's been there for 43, 44 years, and she'll be there for another year. She's going to be retiring at the end of next year, Marian. She'll stay on though, like as far as emergency substitute, things like that. But that'll be a big portion of a salary there that we think can be absorbed as far as, with everything. If we keep it at the number of people that we have, and we don't see any reason why we'd go up, too much more. And then as far as other projects going, we did get a Live and Learn mini grant from the state library. Thank you so much, for new flooring in our library, because it's, as I told my board when I presented this to them, was I know I'm not old, but I said this carpet is as old as me. So that's just weird to me. We used to get it shampooed and cleaned every year, and that's not doing anything for it anymore. It's stained, it's discolored, and then high traffic areas are rough, so it's a safety issue. So we were able to get the grant to get new flooring. So we're going to get the carpet tile in most areas where carpet already is, and in our children's area. Our meeting room was carpeted, but that's where we have all of our programs. So it is a disaster in there, and we're getting that out, and we're getting the waterproof vinyl laminate in there. And then also behind our circulation desk, because those plastic mats are a real trip hazard for my staff and myself. So we're getting that out of there. And yeah, otherwise, I think that's our biggest thing. They're actually going to start the end of this month, supposedly, and they can work at night. So that's going to be a huge help, because we were concerned with, what are we going to have to do as far as closing or reducing hours for however long, but they said they could come in the evening, and whatever they start on that night, they would finish. So yeah, and then otherwise we're just getting ready for the summer reading program. And I have a board member who is like I'm the ideas man, and I tell him what I want, and then he makes it. Oh. And for summer reading, usually every year he does a cover for our book drop. But this year we wanted to do something different. We're going with It's Showtime at Your Library or whatever. And he's going to make a little photo booth thing that looks like a ticket booth. And on top, instead of saying now showing, it's going to say now reading. And we're going to put little props and stuff in there so that they can come in and, and we can maybe take pictures, post it on social media, or they can, do whatever. But yeah, so that's what's going on.
Well, in the interest of full disclosure, I have to admit that I was in that library when that carpet was brand new. Doesn't make me feel younger than springtime, but it's true.
Was Felicia a baby crawling on the floor?
Probably. Go to that open house, Ellen. Okay. How about Carbondale?
Oh, how about Carbondale? We do a lot of programs. We do about 500 a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And we have 2 social work interns from SIU, and they work 9 months out of the year, and they help people find information about accessing social services. This year we worked on developing something with one of our churches that we believe is going to expand into a network for all of our churches. When people come with a need that can't be met, that requires money, like one thing is a car repair, for example, the township funds don't cover. If they don't cover them, then they start going to the churches, and then the churches don't know whether this person has been to every single church, and they don't know how to evaluate the need. So between the Newman Center, which has a fund for this, and the library social workers, they created a form for people to fill out, so that our social workers or other social workers in the area, the township, anybody else could fill this out, and then that goes to the Newman Center, and that helps the Newman Center to know how to evaluate that need, and they distribute the funds. So they're not our money, but we will be helping them to evaluate those situations. And then we also helped our city to open up a warming center. We have 2 shelters in Carbondale, and there are still people who can't get into those shelters for a variety of reasons, usually behavioral. And so we thought that it was probably just like a dozen people or so. The warming center served like over 55 people. So there's a big, we proved that there was a bigger need than we realized. And it was surprising that like 15 of them were women. And we did the informational aspects to that. So we sat at the table. We were in a group where we researched homelessness in the area for 3 years. So we were there for informational purposes. I built a website for the warming center. But I never did go and actually staff it at night, because some of those people are banned from the library. So, but it was very gratifying to have done that and to meet that need, because it's really difficult for us in the wintertime when we're sending people out into freezing cold weather, and we know if they can't go to the shelter that they're risking their lives, and they're sitting in the library during the day. So those are a few things we've got going on that front. We are concerned about, we're sitting on the Complete Count Committee, and we are concerned about Carbondale potentially losing home rule status, which would change things financially for us quite a bit. You're automatically home rule if you have 25,000 people in Carbondale last census had 26,900, but we know that we've lost about 9,000 students. So the last time we did the census, we think that we had about a 60% uncounted. So that gives us some hope. We believe that Carbondale staff will literally be knocking on every door in Carbondale and trying to get people to fill out the census. But if the citizenship question is on there, that will be a huge barrier, and it'll affect our town and a lot of other towns. The Municipal League is trying to get the threshold for home rule lowered to 5,000. That would affect a lot of you and free you up from underneath those tax caps that you have in your counties, because Jackson County is tax capped, so we would be in a completely different situation if we lost home rule. The city would lose, I think they levy 10 taxes and they would lose 9 of them if they lose home rule.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's a big concern. On top of the increase in minimum wage. If I increased minimum, we start at $10 an hour for shelvers, and we start our circulation staff at 11. So we have a couple of years of wiggle room with the minimum wage, but there are 18 to 19 of us at the library, 11 of us that are full-time. And if we were to increase minimum wage to 15, with our upcoming budget, it would have cost $70,000. Yeah, so so those are things that we have to work on the horizon in the coming years, is figuring out what will happen because of that increase, and then also what might happen if we were to lose our home rule. So we have to figure out I'm probably going to need a consultant, honestly.
Wow.
So yeah. So those are the things going on with us, good things, bad things. But I'm glad we opened the warming center, because I was a little bit worried about the public coming out and actually me being the public, because I think that distinct possibilities. So I don't want you to stay the night in my library.
Oh, well, we don't have that issues, those issues, but we're doing really pretty good. We started. Actually, it was really a great thing. You know how you see what other libraries are doing, and you kind of think that would be so great, but I don't know who could help get that at our area and our community. And so one of them was a seed library, which I always thought was really neat. Well, I have a lady that is retired. She's a retired preschool teacher, and she came and approached me in December and asked if I'd be willing, would we want to do that? And I said sure. And she just really wants to volunteer, give something back to the community and to the library. Her husband sat on the library board, some years back. And we had our first meeting last week, and it turned out really great. And she has already gotten a grant and received some packets, like seed packets. Very organized lady, which is awesome and helpful for me. So anyway, and she was really great about it, because one thing I really liked, and I think an attitude is so important when you're introducing something new, that she told in her presentation about starting it and seeing if there was enough interest. She said, if you grow tomatoes, you're a gardener. You don't have, she's a master gardener. So her attitude is just really great. She is so enthusiastic. She is very approachable. There was a gentleman there that loves tomatoes and loves to grow them, and he's a tomato expert. Shared really great with you. So I'm looking forward to that. And it's an answered prayer for me, because she put a sign-up sheet. Who would like to volunteer to help clean the flower beds and the landscape? And I have an issue there. It's usually me out there trying to battle weeds. So anyway, but she's got great ideas. One thing, we extended our parking lot last year, and I really am so thankful for that, because we needed it with summer reading. And she wants to have a harvest celebration in the fall, which I think is awesome. One of my things that I really would want to do is a community garden. And so that is something in the future, hopefully, if there's enough interest. And actually, I think it would be great for the youth, because they need something to motivate, older people, my age, everybody. So we've done that, and I also we started a STEM program at the library, which is kind of a big thing for us as small as we are. So it's a monthly meeting. One of the teachers, she's an 8th grade science teacher, and she's really motivated, very, very upbeat, great with the kids, and the kids come because of her, you know, but she's very organized, and she's a big asset. So she's brought some other kids into the library that aren't necessarily readers, but they'll come and do those activities. That seems to be the key, you know, they just want the activities. They're very hands-on now, and then we're gearing up for summer reading too, so it's kind of what's been going on.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And in Carmi.
Well, Carmi seems kind of dull compared to some. We're working on programs also. That seems to be the theme for the last year or so. That's what's getting people in the door. We're having a game night the second Thursday of every month. And anybody that wants to come, any kind of games you want to play, bring your own, play what we have, any age. We've got regulars that come that absolutely love it. We may not have sometimes more than 5 people there, but those 5 people are coming in the door and they're loving what they're doing, and they're very thankful to be involved in something like that. We have our book club that meets, the Novel Approach meets once a month, and we average 15 every month. And for Carmi, that's pretty good. And we draw, everybody puts their name in a hat at the beginning of the year, and then you draw, when your name's drawn out, whatever month the month is figured up, and then you tell what book you recommend for that year. So if anybody wants to read ahead, or they don't want to be surprised or anything, or maybe they don't want to read that book. Catch-22 got a lot of flack last year. None of us like that. But anyway, that was quite a discussion too on a book that nobody liked. But we're having, we're trying to get more programs like that. Summer Reading Club, of course, is coming up. Our biggest issue, 2 of our biggest issues right now, of course, like everybody else, involves money. There's 2 of us that are full-time and 1 that's part-time with a part-time custodian. And of course, the $15 minimum wage is going to affect us, and it's going to hit us hard. I don't know. I'm not sure what we're going to do. I'm really not sure what's going to have to be cut if they go through with this in the next 5 years. Like all of you, we're in trouble. I mean, let's be honest. The small libraries are in trouble. I'll probably be cleaning toilets, you know, as part of my job description. But that's an issue that, you know, we don't know. You know. Yeah, I already do. You already do that. We do it when we have to.
I also learned that grease that get clogged.
Yeah, we clean up after a lot of people. And then yesterday, I was out yesterday. I had to take my daughter to Heron for a doctor's visit, and I discovered that we have a major plumbing issue. I mean, we're going to have to tear up part of the floor in the community room. It's an old lift station, and the pipes are corroded, and they don't know how far in it's got to go. But we are part of the city. We are a city library, so I'm hoping they have been very good to us. I'm hoping they will continue to be very good to us. But like you, with the next census issue, we may come down below a city status. We may go down to village. Wow. We don't know. We don't know. We've lost the coal mine in White County. That makes a difference. I don't know. That's just something I've heard kicked around. We won't know, of course, until all the numbers are in. But that will make a difference. And where we go from there, I'm not sure. So, but in the meantime, we check in and we check out, and we have programs, and we stay positive.
I think Royalton's next.
Yeah. Well, yes. You know, the big thing again, we're down $500 on our equalization this year. My grant per capita is exactly what we got last year. Thank you. One thing about the money and this census, everybody talked about the two things that we were very worried about. I can remember I went to Spelmy right after, 2 weeks after I got hired, and I tell everybody, go. I mean, that saved my life. But I remember a conversation, everybody was talking to everything, and somebody was talking about who makes what. And I told them what I got, and one girl looked at me and said, we pay our shelvers more than that. And I'm going, well, you don't live in Royalton either. Right. You know, I didn't, to be honest, I didn't take the job for the money because it's not there. And it's not so much the money as the deductions. I mean, what the library has to pay to match what they're taking out for me. But I get minimum wage and the $15, and I'm the only one, and I only work 3 days a week. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday is all they can afford to stay open for everything. So with the cut in the money, the census could really hurt us. I usually use it as an example that my kids into the library is almost null and void right now. And when I talk to the kids in town, because they know who I am, because we're so small, well, I have Wi-Fi at home now, so I don't have to come in. And I've got this at home, so I don't have to come in. And we had 2 families, and I use this, I'm sure some of you have already heard this, I had 2 families that had 5 kids each. So there's 10 kids. Those were the kids that really came all the time, and they usually brought somebody with them. So I had kids constantly, you know, got to know them, got to have fun with them, and they moved. I live in an extremely transient community, and I know because one of the secretaries that works at the school is on our board, and so when I'm missing somebody, I'll say, well, where's so-and-so? Well, they moved to Benton, or they moved to, you know, whatever. And then maybe it's so bad, in 6 months they're back, and then in 2 months they're gone, you know, and it's just like a revolving door. And one of the things that I wanted to ask and is I'd like to at some point try to change our boundaries. When they built the library, they did nothing more than, I live on 6th Street, 7th Street, I don't even know if we've got an 8th. It goes to the 7th, and that's it. And then it goes here, here. And so I was trying to, yet I have people that's out there, they've been Royalton people for all my life, you know, it's like, and 3 of them are large farms. But, you know, and everybody goes, you mentioned taxes, they're gonna go, you know. But we have to try something. So I didn't know, I know in order to do some things, you have to go through the county to get it on the ballot. I guess it's a referendum. Benton is looking at that right now for the courthouse, which everybody's like, whoa. But how does IHLS come in with that? I mean, what are their, if someone's wanting to change their boundaries, what does the state, because I can't find out how it was all done in the beginning.
Barb,
so what's
check
required?
out every library. They're a great resource on that, and I think they help people with those kinds of issues. Every library.
They help Potomac.
Okay.
And
Another,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Another good resource would be the library development group at the state library.
You can wave at them.
Hello. Hey, Pat.
There are people.
There she is.
Oh, okay.
They can work. I would. We will also walk you
Sure.
through the legalities of it.
Well, that's what I was saying, you know, and that's why I was kind of really excited about today, because those 3 things all go together, you know, losing money and the census, and then the change in the boundaries and the amount of money.
I live in the same county that Barb does. I wonder, and this is just a question, if your library and Ziegler could ever combine to form one library district, and you could take the whole school district.
I hadn't thought about that, but see, they're a city library though, I'm not.
Well, I mean, with proper legal help, I mean, stuff can be done.
It's a larger unit of service. Right. So the appeal from a patron perspective is much bigger. The challenge with those are that, you know, like when school districts combine, then I lose my mascot, you lose your
Yeah.
mascot, I don't have my colors, you don't have your colors. Do you know what I mean? It becomes sometimes it's a territorial thing, but the
Yes, and I
benefit is always
understand.
so much better.
Well, I understand the territorial thing, and I know for a fact, Peggy and I grew up together, so I do know, and Ellen knows that, but it's a total different environment there, and it's bad I mean, we talk about it and everything, but I've talked to Sharon about this. Sharon's our board president, Peggy's sister. We all grew up on the same block. Yeah, so it was like, hey, tell Peggy, and they lived on the corner, we lived 2 houses from them. So, yeah, small place. But, and I tell Sharon this, I get really irritated because, I'm wanting these kids in my library so bad. And yeah, I go over and see Peggy once in a while, and the place is packed with kids. And with anybody who tells me, they go, oh, did you go to Ziegler? They had kids everywhere. But they're not reading the books. I want my kids to read the books, and that's nothing against Peggy and the library, don't get me wrong, but I want my kids to come in and read, and I want my kids to participate in library stuff. And everybody looks at it differently. It's like they have 50, what do they have, 10, 15 computers? I got 2, and that's only the adults use them. And they have a refrigerator, and the kids are like, well, I have one, but, and it's like, can I go get a snack? Well, I've got them too, but I see that. So it's a different situation, but territorial, I don't know about the library, but yeah, Ziegler and Royalton, I was the first freshman class to consolidate into that community, and as a freshman, and I'd never been out of Royalton, I thought, if the parents would get out of this, we'd do fine. The kids were like this. I do have to say that out of the 8 that married, only one of them's left. It was like everybody else went, whoop. But I know it's still there. So, but here's another weird. I want to change the boundaries. If you go to the 4-way in Ziegler, turn north to go to Christopher, those houses that are right there to your left have Royalton addresses. So everybody goes, well, they have a Royalton address. Well, if I had Royalton addresses for my library, I'd have it made, but it's not, so.
Well, we can talk about that. Anna and I can talk to you, Pat will talk to you. I mean, there are options, certainly.
That's good. That's positive. It's got great news in for it.
What's going on in Elkville?
Well, we try to have a lot of programs, but nobody seems to show up. We have a real hard time getting people to show up. We have people that come to crochet every other Tuesday night, and everybody comes to paint class.
Yep, I've been.
And we can handle like 16 for paint class, and a lot of people come for that. They sign up and they have to pay $20, so I think that's why they come, because they paid their $20. But still, they come and they like it and stuff. But we've had to cancel classes because nobody signed up, nobody showed up. We stay there until we think nobody's going to show up, and stuff. And so it gets kind of frustrating. Well, I'm not going to plan anymore, but can't do that either. So, but we do have a good crowd sometimes for crochet. It's kind of slacked off for the
Once the
winter
weather
time.
gets nice, yeah.
We got one bus driver that she always would come, but she's been doing ball games and stuff. So, yeah, it's kind of. But we have telephone classes, and that usually goes over big. Have a guy to come in and tell us about the Android or the iPhone telephone.
Oh, I was like, what's the telephone class?
Yeah, but people like that because, you get an older person and they don't know how to send a message or
I'll send my husband next time.
Save a picture or send a picture that they got or whatever, but they like that. But yeah, we're with the budget, with the minimum wage, it's gonna be rough. And we've only got me and an assistant and a sub, so it's gonna be bad.
Something she just said that's really surprised me too is because I have, never even thought about that. I've had a lot more people, adults coming into the library because everything's requiring doing it online now. Yeah, I've already had 3 guys come in and have me do their gun FOID cards. I mean, it's like, I don't know how to do this, you know. And there was, the one guy comes in to go to the state because he hunts, and you have to get your window permit from the state to where he's
Burning
hunting.
Star.
Yeah, Burning Star, and then he has to come back, and we have to send the form in by how much he got. 3 squirrels in February. Are you serious? And that's what they're doing. And so I'm getting a few more people, you know, that are coming in like that because they don't own computers.
Get that, yeah.
Or they can't get.
They don't,
access.
yeah.
Where they live.
Unemployment.
And Pat Berg, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the message you're going to be hearing, I think, from the state library and from the systems as far as when the system is really active. There's going to be a huge message to encourage libraries to be open to people who have to do it online
For census
and need help. Yeah.
2 guys came in to get, they had something they needed to return. And the only way to get the return thing was to go online. He goes, I don't even have a computer. So we're doing more of that.
Yeah.
And I would like to say, if those of you who didn't get to go or couldn't go to the Morris Library offer, if you did get offered, that was a fantastic day.
It was.
Yes, it was. I learned things because from them that is available that I did not know before.
Just for those of you online, Morris Library had an open house to which they invited libraries in the area.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Good.
Yeah.
We're at noon. Julia, do you have any comments or chats from anybody online to share before we break up?
No, I do not.
Okay. Thank you all, and thank you all for speaking up and letting us know what's going on. Our next meeting will be the 2nd of July, so we're red, white, and blue, and we'll be at the Morrison Talbot Library in Waterloo. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Can we line up by colors?